Well, we're here with the man of the hour, our longtime co-host of A Neighbor's Choice, our Science and You segments from the very beginning. Dr. Yu, how you doing?
Thank you, David. I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on again.
I have to say I'm very proud of you because we've been working on this project for a long time to not only explore your theory, Uon theory, but also applying it to various news, science topics of the day. And you were there from the very beginning of my program in Orlando back in 2018 when we started it. But even before then, we did the documentary in 2017, and we met in I think around 2016 or so. So we've been working on science investigations together, on screen and on radio and off camera and off radio for many years, and it's exciting to see with the recent turn of events, millions of new people are now tuning into your ideas. So congratulations.
Thank you. I cannot have this day without your help from the very beginning.
It's been a whirlwind adventure. And of course, we are always impatient. So we wanted the world to catch on millions of people to these ideas many years ago when we met. But there's a reason for everything, and there's a providential timing for everything. So we are just very excited and delighted that now, and for those who are not familiar with what I'm talking about, Dr. Weiping Yu was recently a guest on the Patrick Bet David podcast, which is one of the top podcasts for current events and a variety of topics for the whole world. And it kind of happened very uh, quickly, right? And you were invited on there, and you were there to uh, to engage with the actor Terrence Howard and his insights that he has worked on about physics and math. So just tell us a little bit about what that experience was like. And for those who are not familiar, you can go watch the interview. We'll link to it in our notes for the show for those who haven't seen it. But it certainly has been catching the world's attention. 40 million downloads, all the clips and everything. It looks like someone said. So that's pretty incredible. So for science to get 40 million downloads is pretty impressive. And so tell us a little bit about the background of how it all happened and what it was like.
Yeah, this is one of the most exciting moment, I believe in my life. And so they said that they want to invite me to join the panel and for the interview with Terrence Howard. So then they said, hey, we're gonna send all the materials to me. When I first read those emails with so many patterns attached as a file, I thought, what kind of interview this is about? I'm not a patent lawyer, right? Yeah. Until I saw one article. I believe that Terrence wrote the article, probably mentioned about talking about the physics foundational problems, mentioned about gravity or something about a general concept in physics. So that's are incorrect. Oh, I realized, oh my goodness, so this guest is about talking about the universe physics, understanding of the universe. And then I received pictures from the producer, the silent period. I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, this gentleman actually interviewed Joe Rogan's show. I said, oh, yes, I actually watched about it, maybe not full, watched about it like 10 minutes or something. I remember one thing he mentioned about the gravity is not a fundamental force, which I actually agrees with him. So I agree.
So talk about what it was like going on on the show. How did it go? What was your impression being there during the discussion?
I was very impressed with somebody outside of the physical discipline and can see something even most of physicists could not see.
Yeah, and there's smart people in every different category, and that's what makes America the place everybody wants to go to because it's a place for every type of intelligence and every type of. It used, most of the time that's been the tradition of America is that you can be
Yes,
an artist or you can be a business person or
yes.
Walter
Land of
Russell. Look at
opportunity.
Walter Russell, who is a big influence on Terrence Howard.
Right.
And Walter Russell was a self-taught autodidact, and he was a architect, and a painter, and yet he knew insights that were beyond what would be traditionally considered in his field. So that's where you have to have that space for people who think outside the box. A lot of times the artists will see things wrong with the establishment dogmas of a culture faster than those who are in the prestigious positions, because the prestigious positions function on an anthropological level as the priestly caste, which are bound up in holding on to sacred dogmas of knowledge that cannot be questioned. Another way to look at it is called sacred cows, which comes from
Yes.
Indian culture, the reference to the cow you cannot touch or question. It has to be left in its own special place. That's the same idea behind many of the dogmas that are received in textbook knowledge today. They don't have the position they have purely because people are constantly challenging their fundamental ideas. They have those positions because of the inertia of mimetic prestige of those who have developed those ideas and those who have carried their ideas forward through the years. So it's just like a priestly caste. It doesn't make it wrong. That's just the way humans are. When you have a priestly caste in a church structure through the ages, hundreds and hundreds of years, the elders and the bishops and the leaders carry on the tradition of what is true. And there's not a lot of open environment for people outside of that hierarchy to tell them that something they've been operating on for a long time is incorrect. That same social environment exists in the world of science, particularly in a world like physics, where you have the ostensible power to be able to destroy the whole world with nuclear technology and other types of insights. And so when you have world destroying knowledge at your fingertips in a certain field, you can understand the human tendency to encase a field like physics in a very tight seal of untouchable glass so that nobody has the right to come in and question it, because it's dangerous to question things like that for people's sense of reality, because you got to realize we're not just dealing with people who have the scientific inquiry as people think of that, where you're questioning everything. Thomas Kuhn, the philosopher of science, was clear that most scientists go into a field without having open minded scientific skepticism about the received dogmas of their field. They come in and receiving them on faith, he said. And that faith now can be a loaded word that people like to play with, but fundamentally, it's a leap of faith that they take that for granted, and then they work on a specialty field within the framework of a particular expertise within physics. And that's the way you're supposed to be. But it will be the artists like Terrence Howard and others who will first signal, because the artist is the person who sees things typically in a different direction outside of the typical groupthink of a community.
On many shows, though, the interview, Terrence always mentioned about called the flower of life. He has some models, right? The model describe the three-dimensional structure, the structure of the medium.
And so, what do you think those patterns are describing in the real world? What in those patterns and shapes?
Oh, okay. I asked, so what's the application? What's the real application? He talking about the different geometric shape. Allow you call the tangential flight. It can fly in any angle, any direction. I believe it's probably difficult for regular coleopter to control to fly any direction. Because all those just against the gravity alone, right? That flight is not just against the gravity all the way against that one. You can fly in the space in any direction, tangential direction. So you can make assembly. If you build some components, we make a component assembly, it can stay in any particular orientation. direction by itself. He said he patented those basic geometry shape.
He in the interview at PBD Podcast, you and him agreed on a few things. There may be more, but you agreed that the electron does not exist, right? You believe in the idea that dark. What would you outline the things that you had in common that you agreed? What was your overlap agreement?
In general way, say we agree. What's the problem with physics? Say the most important is what is the fundamental problem with physics? I said I don't think it's an electron. The model is correct. So this is a fundamental issue. I believe Terrence got it right. Electron cannot be a negative charged particle. And I said that this kind of particle should not exist in universe, this universe or other universe, according to Coulomb's law. That's one part. Another part, I would say the brilliance is he mentioned that he reconstructed called Saturn, the planet Saturn model. He constructed without the gravity, dark matter, dark energy. That's a Nobel Prize winning some kind of research project.
Yeah. So what would be the objection to what would be the establishment physicist's perspective about that argument?
But in my opinion, no one ever even doubted, in my memory, doubted the electron is not negative charge bubble. Other than that, once you think about it deeply yourself, see if that makes sense. So I believe most people from the comments I have, they got it. And from many, after the interview, there's many physicists that approached me. So calls from international calls, domestic calls, left message on my work even, and on my LinkedIn page. People realize the fundamental problem with physics started not just from the modern physics, say relativity and quantum mechanics. Actually, even during the classical physics, we still have problems with a lot of, say, James Clerk Maxwell equation. I can tell Maxwell is one of the three greatest physicists that we can list in the world, right? Maxwell equation, and even his understanding and is questionable because 4 of his equations, one of the equation, he has a surface integral of electric charge and gives a non-zero value, assuming he think about it. There are existing monocharged electrons, right?
So what did he get wrong, and how do you fix it?
Right now we use that one, still kind of get most things right. But conceptually, when you do summation integral, basically integral of the electrical charge, so right now we get a non-zero numbers, but in reality, you only get a non-zero number when you integrate the integral over half of the surface. So that's something I try to say, hey, since with this new discovery, the universe, the physics could be much simpler than whatever we were taught in school. So I think so eventually we can correct that.
Some people would say you need to have a book. Are you working on a book?
You know that, right? So I'm still trying to finish the second draft, make it more direct to audience. My focus is on high school students or college student level. First version, I focus too much, try to dispute existing physics, which I believe that's useless effort. People doesn't, after years of people doesn't have to know what's wrong with our understanding at the 21st century, right? So I thought maybe I should just direct it to the point, what it should be. So
what do you think of his preference for the term summation? That gravity is a summation of.
Okay, yeah,
I think that was
that's the one.
Summation of electromagnetism is what.
Yes, summation of electromagnetism.
Do you like that term, or do you don't? Do you?
Oh,
you agree with that term?
I have tested. I have used all different kind of language. describe gravity. And I find one of the resonant with people is the term. So let me rephrase that one. So when we discuss the concept of gravity, which Terrence you say this is the God to like establishment physics, right?
Yeah, this is a god to the establishment physicist. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you for using a more accurate language.
No,
and
you used the right language. You were just too quiet when you said it, so I want to make sure people can hear it. You do that.
Don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to repeat. So that's
Yeah.
what I feel is like the beneficial is if these words go through like the host, like a Patrick, Bad David. If he repeats something, I know all millions of people, 3 or 4 millions of people, they would understand it right away. But if from my words, though may sound different, and Joe Rogan has the same thing. Joe Rogan has a different take on many things, right? If from his words, I believe his audience would understand. So that's why I wanted to repeat the definition of gravity in my words, and also try to catch up, make a different audience understand. He was the first mentioned about it. So gravity is called emergent. He called it is emergent something of some emergent property or something about the electricity. He somehow related to electricity. He's not that wrong. He's right actually. So what I would say is gravity is an emergent property. That means it's not fundamental. It's something after combined with lots of matters, electromagnetic matters, right? So it's an emerging property. It's a group property basically. It's an emergent property of magnetism. Instead of to say electricity. Yeah, that's very important. If you have time, I'm going to say, sometimes you always feels like I'm struggling with the words magnetism or magnetism or electrical. The reason in my mind, maybe this is a good time I wanted to clarify why I'm struggling. In my mind, the universe is a magnetic universe, okay? The so-called electrical electricity is the vibration of magnetic particles. So we can tell that later. Once we know electron is not negative charge particle, so for electrons there's no particle traveling on the solid wire whatsoever. Everything is through vibration wave motion. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I try to say, hey, in my everything started magnet. Magnet has a static magnetic field. That magnetic field is actually exactly what is the static electric field. Just people say, hey, no, different. When you wrap something, it's suddenly originally it's a balloon. Original balloon does not have charge. Why? When you wrap them, then suddenly they have charge, have static charge. You know what the static charge comes from? Comes from original neutral particles on the surface of the balloon. The magnets, two magnets in opposite direction, they form a neutral particles on the surface. When you wrap them, what happens is you wrap them, you break the original pattern. Instead of the neutral opposite direction, now they align them in the same direction. Do I have examples there? Yes. So that's why now you wrap them so on the surface, you create so many small magnets.
Like if you go down a slide when you're a kid, when you have clothes, it has electrostatic.
Yes. I don't know if the video can see this one. I can see this one. No, yeah,
go ahead.
I have two magnets, right? So normally a neutral charge. So if I do the particle this way, this is the most this is the one charge difference. Most of them is like those. Okay, most of the particles like that is dipole magnets. Okay, one positive, one negative. However, when you have two of them, so I'm talking about gravity is a summation or called the emergent property, right? So two of them. So if you have two, you have two different configurations. If this configuration that's in series, you have two magnets in series, you have a stronger magnet. But what happens if you have two magnets in parallel? It's opposite. See, one positive, one negative. What happens? Neutralized. For every point has a positive or positive, I'm going to use a positive charge, you have a negative charge field too. Any point in the space, for any place you have positive, you have a negative. So that's why you appeared as a neutral. That's what happened for neutral surface, for the Bloom surface. When you rub them, you know what happens? You rub them, they flip over. So now original neutral charge, so does not appear have a charged surface become a charged particle. So when you rub a big area, it's all rubbed becomes a magnetic charge. So now
what is the act? What is the mechanical act of rubbing create the dislodging of the neutral state of the magnetic particles?
Oh,
Because it creates
because
heat or what?
oh yeah, when you rub them, number one is you directly impact them, right? You contact them, flip them. Also the heat, the heat will generate a relative vibration, right? Random vibration. Once enough,
random vibration dislodges the neutral structure.
Yeah, it could be high enough could dislodge, but you mostly probably due to friction force, dislodge it. So now you have suddenly suddenly we have a static charge. So what does that mean? Where it comes from?
Let's talk about taking a fire. You create fire with wood. You kindle it together, and then you rub it together, and all of a sudden it creates a fire. So what's happening?
Yes,
those are neutralized particle or neutral particle magnetic particles in the wood grain. And then what happens?
Now, the fire include not just a static electron, it include the dynamic dynamic. That's a moving magnetic field. You create called a dynamic electrical field. So now anything you close to that one, you will feel the heart is actually electricity. You know that one? They create the electricity on your body. So that you feel why it burned.
Why is it that the your clothing going down a slide when you're a kid? I don't know if you ever went down a slide and it creates
I did that. You've been burning your legs, right?
How come that creates electrical charge, but then when you do the wood together, it creates a fire? Like what's going on from the Uon standard?
Oh,
why does wood being rubbed together create fire, but then it doesn't? Why doesn't it create a charge? Why doesn't it create a charged piece of wood where it shocks you, or something?
It first is through the charge, and when the charge reach to certain,
people don't rub sticks together and then put it on someone and shock their skin. So what is it about the wood?
Yes, that's a good question.
What is the wood structure that it makes it turn to fire, but not shocking? But the cloth on your clothing going down plastic creates shocking, but not a fire.
Yeah. Because you did not wear, number one, you did not wear on your body, right? Clothes is next to your skin. When the clothing, especially with the nylon or something artificial, those kind of man-made materials, right? Those things, once during friction become charged, you feel the heat, right? That's become charged and it becomes vibrating. Those surfaces magnetized.
So if you go down a slide long enough with nylon, it'll set fire.
You know what set fire? Yes, of course. When the heat reaches to a certain point, right?
Yeah.
It's not the boiling point of water. Yeah. So based on the
so why doesn't I know I'm asking a question that's off topic, but I'm just curious. Why is it
that's a good question.
When the wood rubs together, it doesn't have a shocking
let me give you an answer.
Electrostatic stage before fire? It just goes straight to fire.
Very good. Okay. Because the wood has pores in it. Pores. And it's not, so that's why pores is lots of bubbles, empty space.
And water.
So that make it the insulator.
What about the water? Does the water affect it or in that way?
Water is conductive. Water is continuous. In order to conduct for heat, you need a conducting heat, right? You need a continuous material. So that's why metal is a perfect production of heat. Water, your heat water is gradually, you have the continuous, right? To conducting heat. So wood, because it's porous, so that's why it becomes an insulator of electricity. It's the same thing you insulate the heat. They are all similar. Because vibration, you have to propagate, right? Yeah, once you propagate through continuous
the clothing is porous too. You've got holes all the way through your stitching, the fabric. right?
because because that's next to your skin, right? So when that part started start charging and motion, you remember it causing electrostatic when you rub even the nylon type of synthetic clothes, it creates static. That's something will create electricity when you come down through the slides with wear that clothes and on a metal slide or even not even
Even plastic. Yeah.
yeah. So then they create the electricity go through your body. So that heat is through
But you're
particle
holding. But when people use wood to kindle a fire, they're holding it with their skin. Why aren't they feeling
Oh
electrical
yeah,
current?
because water
Why
is
don't they feel
insulated.
electrical current while they're getting ready for the fire to be?
That's good because water is insulator. Why it's good
Okay.
insulator? Because it's not continuous. If you look at every piece of the wood,
Okay.
the all the atoms, the particles, they are not one to one
Okay.
connected, same density. No. So they have, so that's why this good insulator means have air in it,
Mhm.
right? Just like a glass, you have an air insulation, so heat cannot go through, electricity does not go
And
through.
what's the difference between that and the air between the cloth fabric and the
Oh, that's different. Because the air before before the fabric woven in different
yeah,
patterns
yeah,
that's not. I'm talking about is the two layers.
on a
Uh,
molecular level, right? Yeah.
yeah, no, you have a thickness. Wood has a thickness, right? But the clothes you wear just very thin next to your skin, right? So that's
Yeah.
maybe you if you understand what I'm talking about, you rephrase it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're saying
Water
that
is insulator because have air in between,
okay.
between those water molecules.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. It makes it's
does
a
that make sense? Maybe
chemistry.
you should
I'm just
rephrase it.
I'm just asking, I guess, a chemistry question here. Just curious.
Oh, we should be able to answer a question.
Yeah.
Let me answer. I watched one audience who made comments. He's, he said something very interesting. Does that means those covalent bond in chemistry? Okay, you have a metallic bond, a covalent bond. Does that covalent bonds are all lie or something or all wrong? He mentioned that one. Actually, it made me feel so, okay. So since my theory called Uon, that's a fundamental particle. Okay, the Uon theory of everything I should be able to explain. If electron is not a negative charge particle, so then you do not have a called a covalence bond. You know what's a covalent bond? You bond with electrons, right? You somehow electron configuration between two atoms. They all have their own orbitals, right? Somehow these things just negatively somehow attract to each other and so the rest of them still what is orbiting, but actually these particles.
You're presenting the establishment view of chemistry, right?
Yeah, that's establishment of chemistry. Take a heck of a lot of people they hate chemistry, but actually chemistry for me is very simple. I don't like that one, but it's simple because the equation calculate the chemical bonds or something is very simple mathematics. So that's why I did good on my physics and chemistry and what else, mathematics, almost 100% on tests all the time because I don't like chemistry, but the equation to calculate the equilibrium is very simple, right? But this I don't know if maybe this is a lady made a comment. So does that mean the covalent bond is not true? Actually, I would say, hey, yeah, if electron is not something orbiting around the nucleus, we need to rewrite this equilibrium. Yeah,
You're almost like a physics whistleblower.
I really don't want,
That's not
personally,
what you're. I know that makes it seem more negative, but you're trying to present a positive standpoint. But at the end of the day, you're not gonna be able to wave your hand and get rid of the mimetic nature of human beings, and they're gonna want you to overcome all of their objections, or else they're gonna try to.
this becomes anti my own interest because personally people familiar with me No, I don't like
Yeah,
conflict with anybody.
yeah,
I try to avoid any controversial issues.
yeah.
However, based on
You have
this
a
kind
very
of
controversial. You're have making a very controversial claim that everything about
right. But
everything.
for those fundamental principle, I don't think it's for any people's benefit. If I try to just say, try to be nice and to maintain self-control or something,
Yeah,
and to avoid make a fundamental law of physics to known by people, I thought that that would be a disservice to people. Is that right?
yeah. So we don't want to have the conflict override the truth of what you've discovered. In other words, right?
That's true. Maybe let me continue this electron. The importance, I believe, Patrick made a fantastic, asked a fantastic question when I try to explain. Oh, it started with Coulomb's law, and we cannot have the negative charge particle. You know, the next questions Patrick asked, what's the importance of this? And I said, oh, he tried to you bring the audience on. You know, have to be relevant to audience, right? So now I'm going to emphasize this important questions. So why electron is not a negative charge particle have so much at stake with entire physics world? Is it because right now we're assuming electron is a negative charge particle, and because somebody also discovered nucleus has a positron, not a positron, has protons. Okay, positron we consider antimatter of the electron. Okay, so now we have a proton as positive charged particle. So how does come? The first one is discovered by, I believe, was J.J. Thomson, British physicist or maybe a chemist or something. He received the Nobel Prize. Actually, it's not on his discovery of electron. Okay, I believe what is it? 1897, something that during that era, he discovered electron as a negative charge particle. And then based on that one, and somebody defined, oh yeah, actually we have a positive charge particle because they can use in build a magnetic field to say, hey, particle come out fly in different directions, right? Negative in one direction, the other one opposite direction, you may be positive, maybe called an antimatter or positron, or at least you have a positive charge particle. I know there's probably at least 3 people win Nobel Prize on discovery of the I believe it was either proton or neutron, proper proton. At least, you know, Nobel Prize award so that one. So once you have a fixation of electron negative charge, then people discover the positive charge particle, and then people try to say, hey, how can positive particle and negative charge particle form? How they can form a stable structure of atoms? So that's where called the Niels Bohr's model, atomic model. I believe he was the first one. So proposed this Niels Bohr, that's quantum mechanical model, which is very similar to solar system with sun and in the middle, all the planets orbiting around the sun. Based on that analogy, form that one. So that's what if you open the fixed book, we still have have a atomic model just look like this one, if you can see it, or look like this one. Can you see clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see? There's a nucleus, which made of the proton and the neutron at the center, and the electron is orbiting in the orbitals. You know, did you see those orbits? Yeah, orbital. Okay. And this model, that's where current physics foundational built on this one, and this model is completely wrong in my opinion, because it turns out that there is no free orbiting electrons. That would, if you have this model, that would make this one as a perpetual motion machine. You know, never stop. For every atoms will be on constantly.
But isn't that considered kind of like passe? They mostly talk about it as a cloud of information and shell.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's another way that they try to expand. They try to further make sense and say, hey, electron actually is not a particle. It becomes cloud. That is even weird, just because the concept of electron does not get it right, and we assume it's a fact, and then everything else from there on becomes convoluted. When comments mentioned about at that point, everything else becomes a religion. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, when Terrence said that.
And you build it on everything you build on top, and you assume it's all correct.
Yeah.
So you know what happens since we assuming electrons, negative charge particle, and we discovered positron, and then also discovered protons, positive charge particle, and then positive charge particle cannot in contact with negative particle. That's another our fallacy, called matter and have antimatter. I do not believe we have antimatter. The reason is if everything's magnets, magnetic matter and antimatter are it's themselves. Say, if I have a magnet, right, positive and negative, I have another one. You know what happens if they in contact? Of course, they're going to rotate in contact, So that means the definition of the called the antimatter. You have identical mass, you have opposite charge, something like that, So in this case, I said, hey, everything's a magnetic particle. It has both charges. So then another things contact you is a magnetic particle. Is also like opposite charge in contact, right? So that should not be the case. So let me continue with why number one we cannot in contact. If we in contact, matter antimatter annihilation. That means matter disappeared becomes energy. That's something is for me is a ridiculous argument. Something can become matter, can disappear, become something else. That's incredible. We have a conservation of matter, right? So how could matter, just transform of bigger amount of matter become smaller pieces or something? So you do not disappear. You cannot create it, cannot destroy them, right? So that's that. So that's one consequence is say, hey, we have an opposite charge, and they cannot in contact. The only thing maintain their stable structure. It has to constantly rotate. I'm sorry, called a revolute. So sometimes, rotation. I sometimes call the revolute around something. I call it rotate. I noticed there's one comment people reject that one.
Revolution.
Feels I don't know what a rotate means. So it's right.
Revolve. You're talking about revolve, right? Yeah.
Or revolve, revolute or revolve. Yeah, revolve or something. Yeah. Sometimes I'm thinking about it in different languages. Sometimes, in visual images. So that's why I will use the word made. So if I speak too fast, I will use the wrong words. So that's the only way to keep atom be a stable structure. Is something not able to cannot be in contact. However, and keep in stable structure, it has to revolve, right? I sometimes use revolve them constantly to keep. So that's create the revolving is acceleration motion. It itself create a centrifugal force, try to fly away from their mutual attraction. So that's the force balance themselves. Yeah. So then what happens? Because of negative charge particle, then we devolved only logical conclusion for atom to exist is with this called Niels Bohr, called the planetary atomic model. Very logical, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where all fixed book will display atom like this one, and I believe this is completely misguided. Because of everything's misguided, and then we have to we create what is called quantum mechanics. Too bad I do not have a picture show you quantum mechanics model. It's basically similar like this one, have a nucleus at the middle, but on the different orbitals, they have a different property and very different particles. So that means entire quantum mechanics built on top of this model. This is the foundation of quantum mechanics model.
Well, I want to ask you, a lot of people would say what we've used, they've heard that we've used quantum mechanics and quantum physics to develop many things that we enjoy today, lasers or, computers, all kinds of things. How could something be so wrong and yet it's being used to get these things developed?
That's a good question. I have, my fellow schoolmate also asked, "Hey, we have so many modern technologies. If you said this fundamental wrong, where did we get it?" You know what? None of these new technologies created by theoretical physicists. None of them tell you.
Yeah.
It's all created by people working in the laboratory, including like Terrence Howard, this kind of people, and people, technicians, engineers, and with some kind of practical scientists. They all work from practical application. They develop this technology. If based on purely theoretical theory, it goes nowhere. Okay. That's my take. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
So in other words, in some ways, it seems as if the way I would say it is the theoretical physicists are taking credit for the work of engineers and applied physicists, maybe sometimes.
Exactly. However, I can make it further. You ask all the physicists, the best and the bright physicists, do you understand what is quantum mechanics? If they clearly tell you they understand, they lie to themselves. Let me tell you, that's what Niels Bohr developed his quantum mechanical model, right? Niels Bohr does a planetary atom model. He said, if anyone, I'm rephrasing, okay, if anyone believe they understand quantum mechanics, they are either crazy, they're either mad, they're either full of themselves or crazy or something. You know the reason? If you truly understand what really Niels Bohr talking about quantum mechanical model, you saw that that's completely insane. Even now, it is still insane. So in that model, all the orbits, somebody say orbital doesn't matter. Physicists like when they do not want people to understand you. You know what happens? They create a new term. Okay, so nobody know what that definition is. So that's how I hated the discussion. Every time I have a new terms come in, we're talking about the physics, we're talking about the fundamentals. They start, hey, what about the string theory? What about the supersymmetry? Those new terms are what? Those convoluted concepts, those are totally irrelevant. Okay, so that's why I try to say the so-called why people cannot even physics. Why physics? Why we have so many technologies, right? See, if the physicist who created this theory tell you, if you tell them you understand quantum mechanics, you are either what is a buffet or something or crazy. Okay, so that means you don't know what I'm talking about. So I fortunately have several students.
But Niels Bohr still, I mean, just I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit just for the sake of where things are going to go, because
I like to be challenged.
Niels Bohr still held on to his model, though, right? Even though he said, let me go pull that quote up.
Oh yes, of course.
So what would you say to them? What would you say to them that's saying, okay, well, that's fine, but he still held on to it, so there must be something.
The reason hold on to it because he has he somehow makes this orbit or orbital orbits a frequency match some certain what is hydrogen in the spectrum. Somehow manipulated mathematically and defined the orbit has to certain shape, a certain distance, a certain frequency. Something when you put all those requirements together, hey, you do match something in testing. That's how you make your work.
Mm-hmm. How about this one? If quantum mechanics hasn't profoundly shocked you, you haven't understood it yet. Niels Bohr.
That's the exact quote. Yes. There's another one. He claimed either something crazy or something. Yeah. So that's lots of interesting. He does
How
not
about
believe.
Richard Feynman? I think I can safely say that nobody understands quantum mechanics. If you think you
Yeah,
understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics. Richard Feynman.
that's true. Yeah.
Is that
He
the one,
won
or is there
Nobel
another
Prize
one?
on that one, on
Yeah.
Richard Feynman, on terms, yeah, the what is it? A Feynman diagram. Yeah.
So I just don't understand. If they don't know what it is, why are they still going with it? I don't get it.
Because so complicated, because we got the fundamental wrong. Nobody, because convoluted,
Yeah.
to the point that nobody really understand. Only the most bold person, brave person, dare to say something, even they fundamentally does not even understand themselves. Get notoriety.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if these things happen to other fields too.
Mm-hmm.
People win award, say complete outrageous things.
Yeah.
I'm not a believe. I don't believe like a Richard Feynman, very smart man. Even NASA invited him as a panel member of a committee advisory. During this the first Challenger accident program. Very smart person. But if you listen to himself, you will get a sense he doesn't believe anybody believe what he's doing. He may sometimes imply that he may not even understand what he's doing. So, sorry about
You're saying Feynman says that?
Richard Feynman. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's an honest person. Yeah, if you listen to his talk, many versions of talk, you will understand what his true feeling. I believe people award him for his effort, and he can use plain language to express complex concepts.
So, Dr. Yu, what is the Uon theory?
The Uon theory is a physical theory try to interpret everything in the universe with one particle, one fundamental force, and with one field, and with one principle, and with one universe.
Just that simple, huh?
I hope that's simple to you.
Yeah. I like that. That's good. So, what does your name Weiping Yu mean? People are learning about your name. What is your name Weiping Yu? The name?
Yeah, my first name Weiping,
Yeah.
and the last name Yu. You wanted me to explain?
Oh, you don't want people to know what it means?
Weiping in China is maintain peace. Yeah.
And Yu means what? What is that?
Yu, that's family name, does not have a particular meaning.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there. I don't want to make up a meaning to
Yeah,
it.
there's no meaning to it. Okay. So Weiping means making world peace. That's good. Maybe that'll be your goal, and maybe that'll be your mission in life. You don't even know yet.
Yeah, I'm gradually becomes super nature beings now.